Hello, this is a follow-up to an earlier video on looping through a selected data array. Similar to the previous video, we have budget EBITDA financial data for a list of business units. We want to loop down our data set and then loop across it. Open Visual Basic for applications. As an example, we will again bolden numbers greater than 0 or italicize values less than or equal to 0 in the loop. Remember to describe the purpose of your macro. Let's call the macro loop down across. Don't forget to disable the following 3 Excel properties using the application object, as this will improve the speed and efficiency of our looping macro. Next, we want to declare the object variables which we will use to compose the macro. Num rows will quantify the number of rows in the dataset, which we will loop through and format the cells. Whilst num cols will count the number of columns in the data array. The R and C variables represent the row and column components of the dataset respectively. Now we need the code to redimension the WKS array of our dataset. The redim statement will adjust the size of one or more dimensions of our data array, which has already been declared up above. The redim property will free up memory because it will reduce the size of the data array and improve our macro speed and performance. We will use the set keyword to specify our selected range as the range object variable. Next, the macro must count the number of rows and columns in our selected data range. We are now ready to compose our loop of the selected range. The for will loop down the rows of selected data. We then want to do the same across the columns of this data using the for syntax. To demonstrate this looping macro as mentioned above, we are inserting a simple if statement which will bolden cell values that are greater than 0 or else italicize the value if equal to or less than 0. Alternatively, you can insert some other code inside the for each code if you want the looping macro to do something else with your selected data. Once the loop has iterated through a cell, we want the loop to move across one cell to the next column. Then loop the cell down to the next row in the dataset. We will then re-enable those three Excel properties which we disabled or altered at the top of our code. We will now review our macro, return to our data set, and then run the macro on our selected data range. As we can see, our looping macro is correctly running. It has looped through the selected data and formatted according to our requirements. As a matter of best practice, let's ensure our macro is placed in a module at all times.